All right, so this is a recap, player recap and reflections of last night's Old School Essentials session. Again, this is part of our long-time Joth / Blackfish Bay campaigns. This is session number 41. I titled it Bullseye based on the final moments of the session, which was amazing, absolutely amazing bit. So very cool. All the way to the end, amazing session. So again, Old School Essentials dungeon, basically, playing it the way it's designed best we can. And this is, for the most part, was a dungeon crawl. We are now outside investigating the courtyard and the tower itself, as we spent sessions coming through the underground area and up into the keep. And now we're in the courtyard and we're investigating the actual stone tower. Stony Lonesome is what it's called. And of course, there's much investigation. As again, I've said it before, in old school D&D, players really do only two things. They ask questions, then make decisions. And that's what old school D&D is. That's what you do as a player, right? Try to use your brain and try to, play in character or whatever, but use your brain. And then the dice dictate so much of our fate. And that's beautiful, right? We play to find out. Dice rule, right? So you take in as much information as you can. You try to, make logical sense of it. And then, of course, the dice become very often the final arbiter of our fate. And I'm okay with that. I love it. I grew up doing that. It's what I've just, this is my DNA, right? So it's easy for me to embrace this style of game, right? But it's not the only way to role play. There are plenty of games that have different intentions, and they're all worth doing. They're just different experiences, right? So that's this particular experience, right? You have to know that, because it ain't D&D 5th edition, right? It's D20. It's the bedrock foundations of the hobby as far as the D20 formula, but it's not 5th edition. It's not Pathfinder, etc., right? So you have to know those differences. You can't just walk away from 5th edition and think you're gonna do the same things in this game that you're gonna do in the modern D20 games. So I think most fans know that, at least most actual consumers that do this thing. Okay, so that meant we did a lot of investigating. So first off, we have the tower, and the tower is broken down. Much of the walls are crumbled in, and there's gaping holes in the tower walls. And fortunately, we have mud with us, and mud scales to the second level. Before we do anything, we're standing in the courtyard outside double doors to the tower, but my character suggests to Mud that you scale and peek in and see if you can get a look-see as to what might be in there before we just crack open these double doors. Again, players ask questions and hopefully ask characters, and but our goal is to get as much information as we can, Q&A, so to speak, investigate, right? Ask and investigate, right? And then we take action. So Mud deftly scales the walls, pops in crumbled an old murder hole that is crumbled more open, so he can slide in. Once he's in, he sees there's light. He catches a glimpse out of the corner of his eye as he takes in what he can around him. Was just it's empty for the most part, except for an old chest that appears open, some arrows and a bow, and he makes his way over to that. Meanwhile, my character had tied a rope around his waist, so when he got up there, he could readily affix it to something, so we could all easily scale up if we wanted to follow him up. It would just save us a step of having to throw the rope up to him, etc., etc. So he's got this rope tied around his waist. As he comes up, he sees two, not far from him, northeast, is a part of the wall, backside of the wall, broken in. So it kind of does a loop around a stone, what's left of the stone wall, a table. And he spies above his head a glimpse of what appears like a large arachnid shape scurrying. And so he, 2 steps, he's looked out, he's thumbed up us, sees this out of the corner of his eye, sees a rope dangling up to the 3rd story. And so he grabs that rope and he does a wall walk around away from the hole to get away from this creature. We all watch him and we see him doing this. And as we discuss what the heck's he doing, what's going on, he still has the rope affixed to his waist. My character pulls that rope to see if it's affixed, and I can feel it taut. Well, it's taut because it's actually looping around and still tied to his waist. And we realized that. He kind of points out, hey, it's still tied to my waist. So we let the rope go. Meanwhile, while we're debating what to do next, he gets the rope tug from something else. So Mud, who's done a wall walk outside using the rope from above, feels a tug as it starts to pull him. We grab the rope below and we tug back, and it kind of stops as Mud cuts himself free immediately. He does not want to. So he's kind of wall walking down or scaling down, and he feels the tug. It starts to lift him. He cuts himself free, drops into some bushes and things, and then drops down to us. And I pull back as much as I can of the rope until we get to an area of the rope that is actually damaged. It is discolored, kind of glistening with something, and it is smoldering. So I cut rope what free I can of what rope is unaffected, and we leave hang there this smoldering rope, and it's something is eating through the rope. So we have, I don't know how much rope left with a grappling hook, maybe 25, 30 feet. We've lost basically half the rope probably in this deal. We then try the double doors. They are, it is barred from the other side. There is no way we can get it open here from here. So we again continue to investigate around the tower. And we find a couple of doors, a door that leads down below stairs, a well, and we get that open. Mud picks that lock. He checks for traps, picks the lock. We get that door open. It leads down into a dark, cobwebby chamber, and we decide we're going to leave that. So we pull that door shut, and we go up the stairs around the southwest side, and we get that door open. That leads us into a room where we find more of Mud's former party mates' gear. We find the shield from the choleric. We find the helm from the choleric. They find some weapons, etc. And George was able to get his sword back from the pit. So in like session 38, George came through the front doors of this keep and fell into a pit. And he had to use his sword to get out. So he had to leave his sword in the pit. So we retrieve his sword. So George now got his sword back. So he's feeling a little better. Anyway, we're in now a room in the tower, actually in the tower. I would say not quite, I guess this would be ground floor, maybe up a little bit from the ground floor, first floor. And this is a small chamber coming in that door. There's a table. And so David takes the helmet and the shield from the choleric. And we find an obolette in the floor. We open that, and again, it leads down a ladder into the darkness. And we decide we're going to deal with what's up before we deal with what's down. So we affix that obolette, and we pull the table and everything over that. So if something tries to come up through that, it would struggle. But at first, we could also hear it if that table topples. We work our way again clockwise around out of that room and around, and we come into another larger chamber. We can see the double doors on the far side of the room, and there is stone steps that wind up the inside pillar of the stone tower. So its stairwell inside is a stone pillar, and these are stone steps that are open. They are floating stone steps. We all work around to where they start up. There's not much in here. The double doors. We decide. So my character immediately unbars those double doors, so we wouldn't be trapped in here if something happens. But we don't push the doors open without help. Lauren has to come over and push those doors open. And then we decide we are going to send someone up the stairs to see if we can lure this arachnid creature down to us, and we can ambush it down here, or even take it out into the courtyard and surround it, so it'd be easier for us to deal with. George, because he's a spry bard type character, I think he's actually a bard. He volunteers because he's faster and fleet of foot compared to Lauren, who's weighted down with a shield and a helmet. And we have Vorat with us as well, but he's an NPC, so we're not really using him. We're not abusing Vorat as a meat shield, so to speak. We're legitimately treating him, with some respect as a character, but he helps when we need him. And of course, he would play a role. So George volunteers, and he begins to take these step by step. And unfortunately, he triggers a trap. Now, one of the things Todd did so brilliantly in this session, when Justin scaled the wall and went into the first floor and investigated him, Todd made it clear that all these walls that have crumbled, there's no evidence of the rocks outside. And in this room, you would expect the rubble. You would expect rocks and rubble from these walls collapsing, but it's not. It's actually clean of rocks and rubble. Someone is, implying, or we can infer from that, that something has removed all the rubble from this room. And again, Todd very, again, deftly just foreshadows something, right? Mud takes it in, but we don't. And of course, our characters, although we hear it from Todd, our characters are not privy meta-wise to the actual information unless Mud tells us. But Todd tells us that. And again, I've said before, if a GM tells you something, hopefully it's not just waste, right? It's not red herrings. I mean, obviously a GM could red herring you, but I think that's not the best way to GM or actually adjudicate a game. Don't give information unless we seek it out, or give pertinent information as Mud looks about. And he does. He says, there's not enough rubble here. There's no rubble in this room. Then he sees the arachnid and escapes. Okay. But that was, again, brilliant GMing. He was foreshadowing that somebody somewhere took the rubble out of here, right? Meanwhile, George steps on one of these floating stone steps, and here's a click, and rocks from above tumble out and damage him. He almost dies. He suffers. He's down to 1 hit point. He topples down to us, and we kind of straighten him up, dust him off, and tell him, "Why don't you rest?" Meanwhile, we remember we have a healing potion, so he takes the draw to that, using up our only healing potion, and he's fixed back up, so he's back on his feet, and he looks around at us and says, "I'm going again." So this time he goes up, he skips that step, or at least avoids that activation of that trap, gets into the second floor. And here, as he comes around, he sees what he can, but most importantly, he can hear fighting on the floor above. So the third floor, there's fighting again. And remember, in the last session, when we first came into the sunlight out of the basement, out of the bowels of the Stony Lonesome, we could hear fighting above in the tower. We also heard screams and roars, and then we saw a meat sack, literally what's left of an ogre, had been pitched out of the tower onto the ground below. And we investigated later and stretched that skin out and found it was an ogre devoid of its bones, its organs. It had literally been sucked dry. So that we learned in the beginning of this session. So we knew we were dealing with some weird thing. Okay. So George yells down to us, there's fighting above. And Mud, by the way, had placed himself. So we got the oars wide open. We got him, the 2 double doors open. Mud positioned himself outside the double doors, bow trained. So when this creature came down, we could try to ambush it, and he could get shots at it, at least. And if it came out, he would be able to get shots on it. My character yells, "Let's go, man! Let's get up there and attack it!" And so everybody falls in suit, except, I mean, Mud literally, as my character motions, we're going up. Mud in protest says that's not the plan. That was not the plan, and he's right. And it's going to prove out that we probably should have continued our very careful, investigation and action, but instead we decide to get up there quickly. So at this point, though, Lauren and Virat lead the way up the steps. Lauren first, Virat second, George third, myself fourth, and Mud, who catches us up. We wait till Mud comes in. Mud goes, "All right, I'm coming in." Mud catches us up. Mud should have stuck with his instincts, right? Justin's instincts were that wasn't the plan. He should have stayed there in the courtyard with his bow and arrow, right? He should have said, "I'll watch the door," right? But Justin, being a team player, says, "All right, I'm coming," right? He didn't want to leave us alone, right? So Justin quickly up in and up to the second floor. Once he's up there, we all rush up the stairs, listening to this fight above. Lauren triggers it, right? Again, Todd rolls a 1 on both these trap triggers on the steps. He rolls a 1. And so I think we all thought that was the trap. And we should have, again, carefully gone one at a time. I think this is what happens, right? You forget how dangerous dungeon crawling is. And we started to expedite things. We started to rush it a little bit. And it cost us dearly as Lauren triggers it. Again, he fails his save. Actually, he might have made a save. So the save was to half damage. My character failed his save. Virat failed his save. Mud failed his save. I I think George and both George and Lauren made their saves, and so they suffered damage. My character was killed instantly, a -2, so I took a huge blow. My character didn't even know what hit him. My character's killed instantly, crushed by rocks. Virat was killed instantly, crushed by rocks, and of course, Mud was killed by this avalanche of rubble that Todd cleverly, an hour and a half before, cued that there should be rubble here that isn't here, right? It didn't dawn us that somebody took all that rubble to make traps, and it never crossed my mind until they triggered, and then it made complete logical sense, which is what I love about great dungeon creation. Monsters trap their treasures, monsters trap their pathways, monsters use the surround. So they want to protect their lair, they want to protect their treasure, etc., etc., etc. It is fantastic. So three of us are killed instantly in this trap collapse. Lauren and George make it to the top, not unscathed. They both have suffered damage, but they see the arachnid creature, this bone slash wax amalgamation in an arachnid form, fighting the bugbear. And I think we all anticipated the skin that was pitched from the tower uh, uh, down onto the ground in last session, before that session ended. When we investigated, I think we all kind of anticipated the skin was the bugbear, and it was an ogre, which was even more. It was like, oh damn, oh damn, 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 something's killed an ogre and sucked its guts out. And David and Lauren immediately attack the arachnid, hoping they can deal with the bugbear after, or they can maybe even communicate with the bugbear if they can kill the creature. And Lauren and George together take out the arachnid very quickly. One round, boom, bam, it's down. Thank God. They immediately turn to the bugbear. Todd uses the reaction tables, modifies it, and we get an 11. It positively, or at least non-hostile reaction to Lauren and George. He's obviously wounded. Todd describes how he is beat up and wounded. His hands is with his weapon in the air in this gesture, and says, "Listen, all I want is to take. I just want to get. I have no beef with you. Let me go." And he says, "Just let me take my sacks," because they see when they come up, they see a rope affixed, anchored, and over the side, and they see these two large sacks. And he says, "Just let me take my sacks, and I will leave." And David basically says to him, "You're free to leave." Or George, it might have been George that said, "You're free to leave, but you have to leave the tower. It's ours." And he says, "That's fine, but let me have my sacks." And then David says, "We'll let you leave, but you have to leave one sack." So the bugbear agrees and leaves one sack. Of course, David says, "Oh, it must be the sack full of junk, right?" And then David goes over. This was the part of the these are the moments where you say you don't play a hero. Heroic stuff happens, and the dice dictate these heroic moments, right? As a character, you just make decisions and you take actions. You don't play a hero, and you're not going to be a hero. It's the assumption in D&D 5th edition is you're making protagonists, you're making heroes. But in the original games, you might become heroes based on the results of actions, or you might do heroic things based on the things you choose to do, and you can be heroic and die, right? Sarah was heroic in that she cut mud free, and I stood guard while Mud escaped, and Sarah was killed by the dire wolf. That was a heroic action, but it was a choice. I basically put her in a situation to save Mud, but it cost me my life. Uh, so it is heroic in a sense, but you're not playing a hero like I'm going to kill everything, right? I'm going to win every battle. So David sets his shield down, describes this beautifully, sets his shield down, walks over to the large hole there that looks down over the courtyard, and he, you know, pulls an arrow, knocks it, and waits. And he waits until he sees the bugbear below come out, headed for the front gates, and he levels the shot, and he describes how he cocks that eye, and he describes how he launches it, and he rolls a 16 and he hits it, wounding it. And Todd describes how he starts limping more with his sack. He's got this sack. And David said, "I think one more." And he draws it. And then he describes how he concentrating, sticks his tongue out, launches a second arrow, and rolls a 20. It's like, dude, it's so heroic. So the dice make it heroic, right? David's actions are like, well, he might miss. They might go into the dirt, and the bugbear will escape unscathed, right? But the dice made it's like, whoa, dude, this is like one of those scenes in a film. You're like, dude, that's amazing. So 16 hits it and then rolls a 20 and hits it. This is what I love about roll 20, right? We get to see those dice drop and we're all waiting and the dice drop and 16, bam. Then second time, bam, as he gets closer to the doors to get out of the keep, he puts one through his neck, killing him instantly, dropping the bugbear. And then David says, now let's see what's in that sack. Right? It's genius. And they investigate up here. They find the rope hanging over. They find the wax is right up on the backside of this keep. So the wax had encroached from the north down and was really right up against the keep. They can see where something or someone has been disposing of bodies over the edge. So there's half devoured goblin bodies and whatever, right? There's half devoured in the wax bodies that have been discarded, whether they were alive when they fell in or whether they were pitched over dead by the creature or whatever. We don't know. And they decide to collect all the treasure, count out all the treasure, and they've made a hell of a haul. I mean, a huge haul, the kind of haul that would have helped us all. Unfortunately, we got a little too fast for our britches at the end. We should have let Virat or Lauren or somebody try those steps and stayed clear. Unfortunately, we all rushed up and we all took the beating, and it cost three of us our lives. And that's something that could have been avoided by just right investigating or going slower or sending Lauren who had more hit points, something up that. So we just flat made a mistake and it cost us lives. The dice cost us. We made a decision, a legitimate triggering of the trap. It falls on us. We all then fell saves, which would have halved damage. Wouldn't have mattered. My character would have died because I only had 2 hit points. So I was going to die if I got any damage, basically. But this is the beauty of the old school dungeon crawl D&D ways, right? I mean, this is the world we're living in. These are the games we're playing. The stories, right? We're not playing a story. We're playing a game, and the results of the game are the story, right? We know these 3 heroes died, and we know Lauren, had this amazing, and it was fantastic. It was, again, these sessions they have been, they're all great. I mean, we have been playing this for years. We are in session 41, so clearly we enjoyed the hell out of it. Clearly Todd enjoys GMing it. There is no doubt we are all enjoying the heck out of this style of gaming and Todd's amazing campaign world of Joth. So that's all a given. But these last few sessions have just been beautiful. And I think part of that's we're all now the culture of play is coming together, right? We're all communicating the same way. I mean, I think it's just culture of play. We're all getting used to each other, and it's just wonderful when we come together as a table, a culture of play, of friends doing this thing, right? And doing it and Todd again so well. And when he described the rubble, in my GM head, I'm like, okay, somebody's doing something with that rubble. So it's so funny because as a GM, I'm like, oh, I know why Todd told him that because that means they're doing something with it. What's funny is as a GM, it never crossed my mind that they made traps with it, right? So I expected us to find something up top, like they were rigging something, right, or building something up top. And it turns out they trapped both levels of the stairs with stone rubble traps, which got all 3 of us in the final on the final flight, and I love it. It's so good. Uh, that's it. Curtains draw, brilliant. So there you have it. This is gonna be a short one today because I don't know what else to say. Dell unfortunately couldn't make it, so his character survives by not being there. And we just narratively describe his character stays basically in the first room that we came up from the bowels, and he would stay in there as backup, guarding the obolette into the bowels of the Stony Lonesome. So it's very easy to write Dell out of the session live. His character just stays there watching the door, or whatever. I think Justin should have gone with his instincts, dude. That wasn't the plan. My character just barks, "Let's go, let's get it, let's go." Because there's something fighting up there. My character immediately is thinking, "This is our chance to waylay both, right, or help somebody." And Mud said straight up, "Dude, this is not the plan." And Justin probably should have stuck to his instincts and said, "No, I'm not. I'm not going to endanger my life this way." And Bud's a great character. I mean, he scaled that wall up and down, dude. It was beautiful. I think he made, again, we don't know whether he made his check traps check because that's done hidden. But he made his lockpick checks. He made his so Mud really had a great session. I mean, Mud was again through success, through choosing actions and making decisions, and then successful die rolls. That's what makes Mud a hero. That's what makes Mud a competent hero. Sometimes you're not going to make those rolls, and it's a bad day. You just have a bad day. Mud can't tell if there's he can't get this lock pick. That's life. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes, you're a apprentice mechanic and it's easy to get the transmission out of the vehicle, but not as easy as it's going to be with the right tools and the right experience to lift to get the transmission out of the vehicle, right? I mean, it's just the nature of why we level up, which people bitch about class-based, level-based gaming. Yeah, well, that's why we level up, right? Because with that comes competency, with that comes some security that you are becoming more of a literary hero, right? But the dice dictated Mud's heroic stuff, and we all witnessed it, which is incredible. And then the end, the dice dictated David's character from the top of the tower, taking out this wounded bugbear as he makes way with a sack of gold or sack of treasure toward the exit of the Stone Keep. Fantastic. Loved every minute of it. Cannot get enough of it. The reality is, Old School Essentials, again, it is a remaster basically of BX Moldve Mincer, I guess. I would say Moldve, but it could be also the Mincer series remaster, and it's glorious. I only have the very first PDF. I think I actually got a free version of the PDF, I think. I might have bought this, I don't know. But it only has the character stuff in it. It's really not the complete set. So I don't know the whole rules. I don't know the Bard class and some of these other things, but it is amazing. Great work, Todd. Again, dude, it's outstanding. So my question to those out there, what are you doing on your Wednesday nights? And we do this every other Wednesday hump day. And I got to tell you, I don't know what you're doing. Watching movies, playing video games, reading a book. Most people aren't reading anymore, right? Watching TV, streaming bad television. What the hell are you doing on Wednesday nights? I'm telling you, there is nothing like social interactive play with these games. It is some of the greatest entertainment and cheap. What does this cost us? It costs us internet access. Roll20 is free. Discord is free. Most you can get Basic Fantasy free. You can get Labyrinth Lord no art versions. I mean, you can get so many of these games completely free and download. You can get our game, no art version free, which is not this style of gaming. It's a completely different style of gaming. But the reality is, you just, I really hope at least people who do like this or enjoy this, I hope they're finding a way to get this. For those of you who don't, my advice is find a group, find some friends, and give this a try because there's nothing quite like interactive, social, and enjoying these games for what they are. Again, depending on what kind of experience you want, right? I want this experience. I think everybody I'm playing with wants this experience. Todd clearly wants to GM this experience. That's not the only experience we want, right? I mean, John in the group is running Aliens on Monday night, and he's a GM, runs all kinds of different games that are not all D20. And of course, we've written a game and we run our game and we run all kinds of things. We've played Sim Room. So we're not saying this is the only way, but for me, it is the apex of what I'm looking for in role playing. And I get to be in character as character, but I'm also aware that I've got to use some problem solving and some guile and to never make assumptions, never leave a stone unturned. And when you do, or when you race, or when you hurry, or when you forget, you could die. And guess what? Certainly that's what happened to three of us. All five of us were wounded, but three of us were killed instantly. And that is what you get for not exercising restraint, so to speak. So anyway, thank you everybody for watching, and enjoy your gaming, love your hobby.